Hello and welcome back to another exciting episode of the Loadout Fighting Game Edition. We do these every Wednesday at 5. With us again, we have Mike Donka Schiller and Radical Ray Chun, our intrepid analysts who will later be breaking down some exciting play from CEO. I'll let you decide. I'll let you guess. Knowing these guys, I'll let you guess what players they picked. But why don't you say hi, guys?
What's up, stream?
What's up, Stream? You heard it here. Ray?
Hey everybody, what's up?
All right, not too enthusiastic. Thanks, guys. But first, before we get into all that fun talk, we are excited to say that we have a special guest today. We have Brandon Alexander, co-owner of Ultra Arcade. You know him, you love him. You might have confused him for Thor in real life. He is coming to us live from San Antonio at Ultra Arcade. Brandon, how you doing, man? Say hi.
I'm good. How's everybody doing today?
Thanks for joining us, man.
Thanks for having me, man. It's awesome.
So, Ultra Arcade, you guys had a pretty big weekend at CEO. First place, your sponsored player got first place in Killer Instinct and second place in Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3. Why don't you tell us a little bit about how that feels?
Oh, it was awesome. First of all, I mean, when we sponsored Base, I've always saw potential in him. I always thought that he was like one of the best Killer Instinct players of all time. And when he won, he's won other tournaments too, like TCW and Texas Showdown. But this was CEO is like one of the biggest tournaments of the year, and oh man, I had tears in my eyes because how happy I was, stuff like that. So
that's one of the things I've always liked about you, Brandon. Not to put your business in the streets, but you get emotional to the degree that it makes people feel like this guy really cares. And speaking of really caring, other than letting your passion take you to the point of building an arcade in San Antonio to serve that population, what motivates you to start to sponsor players? You're doing quite a bit of that.
Well, the thing is about sponsoring, it's something that I've really never done before. I've been talking with other people about sponsoring players, getting information on EG and just talking hey, what does it take to get into this type of business? And it takes time, lots of time. So that's why after a year of Ultra, I'm just now starting to actually take the time to sponsor players. And there's a lot of sponsors out there that don't really deliver, and that's something that always kind of upset me. There's so many good players out there that deserve to be at these big showcased events, and Base is one of them. It's just basically, I just was like, what else can we do besides just run an arcade? What else can we do for because we want to be a part of esports as much as possible. You know what I mean? Esports is like a big focus for the arcade. And
while you talk, let's take a look at Base's grand finals match. We're going to let it run while we continue this conversation.
Okay.
I heard you just say it, and we are Daily.Esports, and you just said you're trying to get into that esports thing. You're not of that ilk of people who say, "Ooh, no, FGC and esports don't mix." You're saying, let's do this right. Let's go pro and take it to the next level.
Yeah, man. I mean, when I decided I wanted to get a team together, I was like, okay, I want to make sure I do everything right. I want to get a person that knows what they're talking about as far as a general manager, and help me actually get contracts for players where players are actually getting paid out fully. Because I understand some sponsors, people understand the agreements. Like, okay, look, all I can do is your venue fee. I always think that's not really enough. So Dave and I were like, we're not going to start sponsoring players until we can actually financially do it. And now's the time. It's like, okay, we're gonna start sending out players, to majors, fully sponsorship too. We obviously have Base and Tom Brady, and we just announced Paul B, that are fully sponsored. So that covers hotel, venue fee, food, pretty much everything for the event. So that way they're not spending out of their pocket. They go there sky free pretty much. So, just gotta represent the brand well. You don't always have to make top 8, but when you go on stream and you do commentary, you're professional. You're humble with other players. You're willing to teach other players. One of my main focuses of sponsoring for at least getting a player for each game is so I can send them down here monthly so they can help level up the players down here. Because when you're playing everybody in the same city, it doesn't really help you level up to a certain. You only get to a certain extent, and so when you're not playing with people like Justin Wong consistently, you're not going to be at that level. That's just how it is. So, for our MK players, I got Tom Brady. For our KI players, I got Base and Paul B.
Which you just announced today, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, yes. So I'm trying to find someone for Street Fighter.
Yeah, I'm
There's
pretty sure that if you put that call out, you'd have a long list of people
yeah,
trying to get
yeah,
in on that.
yeah.
Brandon, I mean, not to interrupt, but you mentioned the. I mean, at the end of the day, this is a business, right? And yes, it's great to be able to give this opportunity to players, but there's a transaction here. They're supposed to also represent the brand, which you mentioned, the brand
Yes.
being an arcade in San Antonio. What do you think is the ultimate purpose of sponsoring players from around the country? If you're an owner of arcade in San Antonio, is there any I don't know, how much can you get for your buck, so to speak?
Well, the thing is that obviously we're being talked about consistently
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to Killer Instinct. I mean, we're hosting the KI World Cup. Yes, we may be, our main location is in San Antonio, but we do plan on opening other locations soon. So, but also, getting the brand out there, because we also opened Ultra Studios, which is a video game development,
Mm-hmm.
studio, and then we got a production and promotion company and stuff like that. So really is just trying to grow the brand and get the right team together, that can, be consistent, because being consistent is one of the hardest the hardest things to do in fighting games.
Consistent
Like,
in representation and playing at a certain level. What kind of consistency are you referring to?
basically playing at a certain level.
Right.
So, Base has been one of the only players that he's made top 8 since the first combo clash that we held here in San Antonio. And, Paul B has been consistent too. So that's why I was like, I told Paul B, there's things that, he needed to work on with his attitude,
Mm-hmm.
and, I said, as soon as you do that, because he's always like, hey, Brandon, when are you going to sponsor me, man? It was like one time I sent him like $300 and he just sent it right back, because he needed money for a flight. And, I was like, okay, so it didn't really make sense at that time because, he's off and on and he didn't really know what he wanted. But now he was like, dude, I really want to be a part of your brand. Like, your brand is being, it's looking really good. And, it's like, we don't make false promises to our players. It's all in the contracts that they sign.
Right.
And they get 100% from me. And,
Mm-hmm.
I get 100% from them. So, and it makes the brand look good. I had people come in yesterday when I opened Tom Brady literally brought me customers. Like, it's like, did you guys really just sponsor Tom Brady? And I was like, yes. I was like, well, I didn't even know this place was in Texas, man. That's awesome. So I wanted to stop by, and I was like, okay, cool. So, so it's like,
Well, yeah.
sponsoring players benefits Ultra. So,
Well, Brandon, I'm excited. It sounds like you're entering a new territory of. It seems like you're the kind of guy who likes to challenge himself, put himself out of his comfort zone, and I think this is a new, exciting area for you. Helping grow this talent, take him to the next level. I'm excited to see what you guys are doing at Ultra Arcade. What can you tell us before I let you go about the upcoming Killer Instinct Championship? First of all, give me the correct title for it. It's the World Championship.
it's the Killer Instinct World Cup.
Oh, World Cup. That's what it is.
Yeah, yeah. So it's basically right now it's the top 16 best players that earn points, kind of like similar to the Capcom Pro Tour.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, they're going to be competing for $10,000,
Mm-hmm.
and that is to take place in San Antonio, Texas. Not at the arcade. Everybody always assumes the arcade for some reason, but the address is on the flyer. Basically, I have like about 5 Combo Clash events, which is where like Combo Breaker, the one at the arcade, CEO. Basically, if you win those, obviously including Evo,
Mm-hmm.
you immediately qualify for it. But you also get like massive amount of points for seeding, of course. And then we have Combo Clash Japan that we're actually flying out to Japan. I know there's only 30 hardcore players, but that's enough for me to try to continue to grow this.
There's Japanese Killer Instinct players.
Yes, right. No, nobody believes me. But if you actually pay attention to the KI Killer Instinct forums, they're always posting their tournaments in there, and they have about a good 30 players. So we want to get our 30 best players and get them to Japan and stuff like that. And obviously, there's 2 qualified spots to earn out there. So obviously, if you've already qualified, you can't earn a spot, so it just moves back. So basically, if like for instance CD Junior or
Mm-hmm.
base wins one, it 2 players behind him on the results will get the free sponsorship to.
Well, Brandon,
yeah.
that sounds really cool. I'm glad to see again the progress you've been making. What can you, or where can people find out more about Ultra Arcade before I let you go?
You can obviously you follow me on Twitter at ultraodinson.com, ultraodinson, and then ultraarcade.com is probably the best place to get any new news on the arcade. So we also have a Twitter. It's ultra_arcade.
Excellent.
So.
Thanks, Brandon. Thanks for being on the show, man. I appreciate it. You're our first live Skype-in guest.
Yes. This is awesome. And you guys got a great show. Thank you guys for having me, and thank you for continuing to grow the esports side of fighting games.
Hey, there we go. We're all playing our part, man. Well, thanks again, buddy.
No problem, man.
All right, gentlemen. You heard it here. That was mighty Brandon Alexander.
Where do I sign up?
Where do you sign up, right? You should have seen.
I play Street Fighter. Oh.
Yeah, man. When Brandon said that they're looking for Street Fighter players, you should have seen the look on Donka's face. He was like, ding, 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 ding. What do you think? You heard him talk. This whole idea of sponsoring players, Donka, you had some ideas about that. It's one thing to sponsor, but what's your message? What are you trying to accomplish, right?
Well, it's really a cool idea. I mean, I was sponsored myself by Denial Esports, who recently won the COD championships or whatever. But that ended up dropping when we realized we just didn't have that much for each other to grow off of. I got a little bit of money from them. They got something out of me, who knows what. And that's part of the problem in general with fighting game sponsorship is there isn't RAM to sell. There isn't PC parts to sell. You got fight sticks, which Mad Catz has pretty much totally monopolized.
For sure.
And then you got branding. So, I mean, Brandon did a really good explanation on something else outside of products that you can help with the sponsorship. But I guess the question comes how many people can really be that good and how many people can really be useful enough to a brand for the sponsorships to grow?
You know, you mentioned that you used to be sponsored by Denial, and I remember thinking a long time ago, I was like, oh, dang, you got dropped by your sponsor or one, this, that, and the other. And it was at a Texas Showdown. I spoke to Perfect Legend, and he was saying, nobody knows more about sponsorship than I do because I've been sponsored by everybody, including, I think, I'm blanking on his name from EMP.
Triforce?
Triforce, yeah. And this guy was saying it's not about, I got dropped or I got picked up. It's, there's a revolving door at a lot of these types of places. What are your thoughts on that? Should there be something more solid? I mean, the EG guys, you see them on there for a while.
It is a revolving door, but it probably shouldn't be, I guess, is the answer to that. Yeah, I mean, the consistent sponsorships are the ones people hear about. When you think of fighting game sponsorships, you pretty much think of Evil Geniuses. Now you're starting to think of Ultra Arcade.
For sure.
And those are because they have kept the same guys, and those guys have kept the brand. But if you sponsor a guy for 2 weeks, what do you expect him to do? Go to one tournament, maybe do well? I think you really have to have these things ironed out to where that person is going to become a face for you. And if it becomes a revolving door, then they're a face for everyone that sponsored them before. I sometimes forget who people are sponsored by. Mm-hmm. So yeah,
and maybe that's
can't just be 2 letters.
Exactly. You know, going forward, as we see, and we're about to transition to CEO talk, and the absolute viral explosion that was K-Brad's entrance, but the idea being that to me is a testament to we're growing, getting more popularity, the scene is growing, right? I anticipate that the sponsorship game will start to change a little bit as a result of that.
I really think
But
so.
Let's get to it. Ray, your thoughts on K-Brad walking? I mean, all those entrances are great, right? At CEO, they have the ring. What'd you think?
K-Brad's definitely was the best one. The way he did it, the way he even did the Stone Cold Killer on the announcer host guy, that was just awesome. I mean, it's on, CNN?
It was on CNN, World Star Hip Hop, ESPN.com, Bleacher Report. I mean, it was everywhere.
It was awesome. I think he did it really well.
.com as well, by the way, if you go check out the daily.esports section. We had it up there as well with a very nice write-up. But the idea being showmanship goes a long way, and that's not necessarily something you see at every tournament. Mike, how did you feel about some of the theatrics?
I mean, I'm not a pro wrestling fan, but I think that the idea of it's awesome. And yeah, not everything has to be pro wrestling, but just showmanship in general for players as well as production value for tournaments goes a long way in getting people that are fighting game fans to keep tuning in and getting people who aren't fighting game fans to watch it. I mean, as I said, you saw this on all those medias. You saw Viscant versus Low Tier God blow up before that. Geez. So a little work from the players and a little work from the tournament organizers in making these things marketable brings it to a larger audience and gets money for the players to win in tournaments and such, and it gets sponsorships to be relevant. So why wouldn't we go that extra mile?
You know, but you see a video like K-Brad's entrance, and you say, okay, I get it, that's fun, it's exciting, but why is it that there's that universal appeal? My theory is when you see the reaction of everybody else, it's contagious, right? So in that other Viscant versus Low Tier God that also was on World Star Hip Hop, people who had no idea what that was were enjoying it because you feel that swag, that energy, that, you know what, F this guy next to me, or man, I'm more exciting or pumped up than this guy next to me.
And I think the fighting game community has a lot to harness in that. Compared to any other gaming and even sporting communities I've met, people really get excited, people really get loud, and people really get into it. So if there's one thing to take from CEO on a broader level than just fighting games, it's that there is entertainment value here.
Absolutely.
It's there, and someone needs to go get it.
What do you think, man? We're talking about CEO, and we're going to transition to your expert analysis that I know you guys will be providing here any moment. Any other takeaways that you thought was particularly exciting about CEO before we get into it?
I mean, while we're talking about theatrics, I love Dominion's entrance. That was the best thing ever.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on. Every single Yomi member had the Jurassic Park theme song playing in the background. That was kind of funny and cute.
You know, we were talking about, I wonder, I mean, those guys probably broke the bank on printing Yomi t-shirts. Who is not sponsored by Yomi?
I don't know. I think half of Mortal Kombat top 8 at least, something like that.
I mean, but I think it's a good idea, though, because you got all those good players playing against each other. I mean, they all know Tanya is good, and they're all going to abuse that, I mean, as we saw.
Hold it, Ray. We'll get to Tanya-palooza when we talk about Mortal Kombat. Right now,
if there's one more thing just to say about CEO, it would be, it shows where community relations have gone. Jib Bailey's the one who runs CEO.
Right.
He's friends with Keats, who used to run UFGT. And they, I know, have done a lot of work with, there was also Max who organized the brackets. So working together in these things has gotten both tournaments to kind of skyrocket in production value. So fighting game players want to go to as many good tournaments as possible. So I really think banding together and making it sort of a broader league, which I think the Capcom Pro Tour has tried to do, is only going to help out everyone. Oh, yeah. There's no competition. There's not 4 fighting game leagues competing against each other. No, anything you do to help out them is probably going to come back in a few extra entries for your tournament.
At any point, do we need to start asking ourselves, are there tournaments that are more exciting, more relevant than EVO, or are we not there yet?
I actually just was talking about this with some of my friends the other day, and I don't think anything needs to usurp EVO. EVO is the granddaddy of them all. I mean, we have over 2,000 entrants. They have to make new bracket sizes to facilitate Street Fighter 4 and Smash. But I really think there needs to be another tournament, maybe in the winter, 6 months away from it, where people can really have that pilgrimage be at the top of their minds.
All right, guys, we're officially going to go into the section where you guys break down some plays. You're going first, Ray. You guessed it. It's Balrog, of course, and PR Rog. Before we go into him, your thoughts on, coming out of retirement.
He was never retired to begin with. Let's just be honest with each other. He just never was retired. That was just a big, I want attention. PR Rog's that guy that's like.
You think he's that guy that says, I want attention?
Yeah,
Somebody pay attention
he talks so much. I mean, he backs it up with his play, as we're about to see. Yep.
Well, before we get into that, I'm going to talk about the fabled interviews that we shot at South by Southwest Fighters Invitational. We had an interview with PR Rog that has been turned into digital dust. It no longer exists on our hard drive, wherein he said, in fact, he was not retired, and he never meant to retire. It was just, I'm going to step away for a little bit. But here we go. We're going to go into this first clip that you sent me.
Okay.
Let's check it out.
All right, so here we have PR Raw going against Mago. All right, and for this one, we want to just watch how Rog is working the spacing and the controlling. So when the video goes back, we'll see it again. It's a little bit fast. So here, all right, he's gonna punish. He's gonna walk up, walk back a little bit, and bait it out, do his regular combo. And watch after this knockdown. He's just gonna go up and grab. And I want you to watch again carefully. He's gonna do the shimmy again. And that's where he gets his light kick, counter hit into the dash punch for the win.
So, I mean, the power of the shimmy, put the fear in him, get him to bait it, and then he took advantage of that?
Yeah, a few years ago, Gutex, we call this the Gutex shimmy.
For sure.
He was godlike with it when you get people in the corner, because everyone is scared of Balrog's jab pressure, the best jab in the game, undoubtedly. And then his grab, 160 stun, good damage. Off of jabs, you can do jab, 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 short headbutt, easy linking, everything. So here, PR Rog is really using it really well, shimmying him, getting him scared. That's why you put the grab the second, after he blocks it the first time. So,
but the thing is, when I mean, obviously I'm not at the level of PR Rog, but when I'm trying to plant an idea in my opponent's mind, I usually have to do it a couple of times before I can reap that benefit. It almost looks like he did it immediately. It's like, here's what I want you to think. Now I'm immediately plucking that.
That's a really key point, which is when you have to kind of identify the level of your opponent.
Yeah.
Really good players adapt really fast, and so you can kind of do these one-and-done mix-ups a lot easier than on weaker players, where you'll end up having to consistently bait the dragon punch or consistently go for the throw. They're not going to tech. And that'll bring you to the issue of people losing to scrubs in tournament because they don't have that knowledge to switch it up versus player skills.
Okay, you're right. Thank you for that expert thought that you just put there, a little footnote. Ray, we're going into your second clip. This is against Smug, and this was already in, was this top 4 already?
This was after Smug got sent to losers.
Okay, well, here we go. Let's watch it.
All right, so here, we have the confirm alpha, the easy crouching medium. So I want you to watch closely right here. Balrog is going to jump in with a meaty standing and then just jump back jab. And
I mean, it's simple but elegant.
Simple, elegant, and very tricky because Balrog is a character with no left-right mix-up. It's just up and down. So, after he jumps and you block that, what are most Balrogs going to do? As we saw earlier, he's going to usually just crouching jab. But this one, that little bit of health Dudley has left, he knows that he can get away with it because he's not looking for that. Now, it is important to notice that if you do this and they block it, you are completely unsafe. Yeah.
Even on hit.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Even on hit, yeah. That is true.
So, you literally need to have the read and have it connect and have it kill for that to be effective.
Very situational, yeah.
Yeah. And that, of course, works as a fuzzy guard, where if you're in block stun from a standing move, you'll remain standing until block stun ends.
Now, it's not me that wants to know the answer to this question, but there might be some viewers out there who don't know what a fuzzy guard is. So, clearly, you need to explain what that is for some of our viewers.
All you, Mike.
Yeah, I just did it quickly, but so fuzzy guard in Street Fighter terminology is when you block a low or an overhead move, you will remain in the crouching and or standing state until the block stun from that move ends. So if you manage to do another move while they're still in that block stun, it's going to hit them in that animation. And when a character is standing, they're taller. So moves such as an instant jumping jab will hit them whereas it normally wouldn't.
Okay. All right.
So even if they're blocking low, they still have that standing hitbox.
I see. Okay, and we're going into your last clip here, Ray. And I believe your notes when you sent this to me was the flashy stuff.
Yeah,
all right, here we go.
This is definitely the flashy stuff right here. All right, just goes in, turnarounds punch, doesn't even care. Yep. And then, all right, so here, stun. Now, Abel is one of the characters that has the highest stun in the game, and this clip right here really highlights how much stun and damage Balrog can do in a short amount of time. So each of those right there, the standing, the jump in, meet, high kick, and then the standing is 200 stun each. So that's 400 right off the bat. Tap is also 100. Each jab is 50. I mean, Balrog is just a character that's just going to put you in the corner. Look at this. It's 8 seconds, and he's already at, what, 20% health? Like,
how do you think, of course, you have to watch the full set to get the entire context, but that jump over the wheel kick, I thought was just like the nicest, just like precognition over here on PR Rogs.
Because most of the time when Balrogs are going to play, they're going to try to space you out with the stand jab, and then they might want to, hold the charge for the dash punch where you're going to crouch, or if you're trying to charge for the headbutt. So this right here, he's setting up for that because he wants to hit him while he's crouching and charging. But Balrog is just going in. He knows that the stun is close. He wants it. He wants to get it. He needs it to win this match or put it in his favor. He's down 2-1. He needs to get in there. And this is what really highlights how good of a Balrog player PR Rog is, as well as a Street Fighter player.
Yeah, I really agree with that point where he noticed when he saw a counter hit turnaround punch hit, I don't know how much stun that is, probably 300 at least.
Oh, just 100.
Oh, just 100?
Yeah.
Well, counter hit adds some to it.
Oh, yeah.
He realized that that was the moment where he knew he could get the stun. He just gave up on charging and went in at that point. So
if you get hit by a turnaround punch, that's kind of weird. Just right off the bat, it's like he's holding all three punches just to get in there. So it's pretty funny to see that. Rog is a great player. Back then I was watching Kino, known for the Kino eye, the super reactions, and then you got the Gutek shimmy. So
he's putting PR Rog, in there?
Yeah, so you combine them together and add 2 cups of salt, and then you got PR Rog. So
Yeah, I mean, that's great. I remember hearing, I guess it was like a chat log or something to the effect of the Japanese player saying that the American player that they're most scared of is PR Rog. That was a while ago.
yeah.
But you every time you see him play, you realize why that's the case.
I mean, he plays a character like Balrog where everyone knows the matchup, everyone thinks they know the matchup, and then PR Rog just blows them up.
He's on a totally different level from every other Balrog, including Japan.
Mm-hmm. Well, moving on to you, Donka.
Yeah, and notable in the same sense is going to be Daiminian, who is definitely generally considered a better Guile than anyone in Japan. He went over there and did pretty well. Guile's a character that has, throughout Street Fighter 4 since Super, kind of dropped in the tiers as characters have gotten more precise in their option selects and people have gotten more focus-heavy in their gameplay. Guile just hasn't really been cutting it. Mm-hmm. But Daiminian showed that in the right matchups where his fireball game isn't diminished, he can really, really bring it to the next level by utilizing a less turtley style than I think people originally knew Guile for. Utilizing walking behind his Sonic Boom and getting the pressure for it and making the quick reactions to anti-airs and stuff like that.
So you sent me, this is a round from his match versus Bone-chan, and it's going to be a whole round, so you just go ahead and talk us through it.
So Guile versus Sagat's a match where obviously Guile's not going to win the fireball game without getting close enough to take advantage of his low recovery. And using that low recovery, he can tag him afterwards with a forward fierce, he can get a jump, and he can react to Sagat's other non-fireball options. So the next time this round runs, I'll kind of run through exactly what happened. The way Daiminian plays Guile in this match essentially revolves around following the Sonic Boom. And what he gets to do via that is get little bits of damage that add up to a life lead, and then via that life lead, control the match. Mm-hmm. So you see here, he pokes out and stays close while remaining to forward dash, bazooka knee to stay in. And he doesn't mind eating a little bit of damage doing that as long as he can stay close. And here with the life lead is when Guile becomes really, really hard to deal with. His defensive options make him insanely hard to get in on. And so you see react after the Sonic Boom for an anti-air, and you're going to see it again coming up in a couple seconds when he reacts post-Sonic Boom with another anti-air from half screen on a neutral jump, which is coming up after an exchange right about now.
Yeah, here it goes.
Yeah, here it goes. So the half-screen anti-air that I mentioned earlier.
Just walk up and smack him.
You know, what I take from that is, in a very quick succession, he threw 3 different speeds of boom just to mix up Bone-chan. The other thing I'm noticing is he's stuffing a lot of his fireballs. How do you position yourself as Guile to take advantage of those situations?
Well, you have to be using Bazooka Knee, his back light kick, to maintain charge, to move forward while throwing the Sonic Booms, as well as you have to just give up charge sometimes in forward dash and then neutral jump over the fireballs and gain the charge that way. Mm-hmm. By remaining close enough, you scare them out of throwing fireballs because Guile's recovery is a little faster. He can tag them afterwards. And so as long as you can stay at that mid-range, he actually wins the fireball fight, forcing them to back up to maintain their distance, and eventually you get them in the corner, whereas as you can see, any neutral jump, any forward jump is going to get anti-aired.
You know, we talked about Daiminian's entrance, and it was right before this match. Do you think did that play a role?
Oh, that definitely scared Bone-chan. He didn't even know what was going on. The camera didn't know. Nobody knew what was going on. That was amazing.
All right.
I think it showed a lot of confidence, frankly, and whether it was false or not, you could tell he was having fun with it, and you can tell he wasn't terrified of the match upcoming, which is kind of scary for the other guy. I know when I see a player and they heard my name in some way, shape, or form, and they're kind of trembling, I already know it's over. So when you see oh, he's going against Sagat and he's very confident about it, then yeah, it's a little intimidating.
So we're going into another clip again. This is
so before you run it, actually, yeah,
let's hear it.
This is also from the same match, and an issue Guile will have with a life disadvantage is that while his control game is so strong, his mix-up game is extremely weak. He has a low damage standing overhead. He has a really bad cross-up jump in. In general, he has a really tough time opening people up. So you have to get creative. And what you're going to see here is Daiminian utilize the Sonic Boom to make a normal jump in turn into a mix-up. And you'll see what I'm saying in a second.
All right.
So after this exchange with the Ultra Fireball, he throws a Sonic Boom, and then bam, what looked like a cross-up ends up staying in the front because the Sonic Boom pushes him back while he's in the air. And I know this was premeditated because normally that jump heavy kick would whiff. if it wasn't for that little sonic boom.
So that looks like somebody did their lab work. Is the mix-up there, you either land in front or land in back if you time it differently, or is that designed to land at that in front? Basically? It's
definitely that one is going to land in front, unless he walked a little bit further, as you said. So the sonic boom pushback makes it a true 50-50.
But, okay, so, again, since you're there already and I'm getting there, that light punch or that light sonic boom pushes them further to keep them in front? Is that what's happening?
Yeah. Because normally jumping heavy kick isn't a cross-up move.
Okay.
But it's a big damage, big stun move, obviously, that leads into a combo. So normally, as you watch, like, right when he jumps, you're going to see Sagat get pushed back just a little bit.
Oh, there it is.
And that's what allows that jumpy heavy kick to live hit in front. And when you are looking at the screen generally, you're going to be looking somewhere around the other character. So when he jumps, you're not really looking at yourself get pushed back by the sonic boom. And I've done mix-ups similar to this, but these are extremely hard to block.
Thing of beauty.
Yeah, to have that peace of mind to do that with such a big life disadvantage is what separates like a mediocre guile from Dominion.
Thank you guys for those clips and for that expert analysis. It looks great, and it's fun to watch, and it is cool to pick those things out and then potentially go and take them to the training room, see if you can do them yourself. Who's a better guile, NuckleDu or? And the reason I ask, not because of the performance, I mean that says something, obviously speaks volumes, but as far as the Capcom Pro Tour ranking goes, NuckleDu is the highest ranked. Or did that change? Ray, you're our ranking
still
expert.
Up there.
Exactly.
NuckleDu does play two characters. He does play DeCapri as well as Guile. They have very different styles. NuckleDu plays a little more of the brawler, like follow the Sonic Boom style, whereas Dominion's known for being kind of a turtley in the corner Guile. But I think this CEO really kind of showed Dominion's evolution to add that to his game, because he definitely was not the kind of Guile to be jumping in before. So right now, I'd give my hat to Dominion, but they're both obviously fantastic players, and I don't say that about a lot of people.
No, obviously, Dominion is fun to watch, and he's definitely at the top of his game. Now, another thing that you guys were bringing up was the whole idea of coaching, right? And this is what I meant to bring up earlier with PR Rog. There was that match between PR Balrog and 801 Strider, where did he just do like a raw ultra out of nowhere?
At the very last match for elimination point for PR Rog, he does a headbutt and gets away with it. But then, for some reason, he just does another one, and it costs him the match. Like he just dies after that. 801 Strider jumps in and punishes him with a whirlwind throw. So after the match, everyone's like, "Oh my God! Like, why did PR Rog do that?" But then suddenly, you see the chat going crazy because PR Rog gets up, starts pointing his finger. I Peru, like, blah, 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 and I Peru's like, and we can't hear anything because, it's set up that way, but apparently I Peru was yelling
EX Tornado.
EX Tornado, yeah, and that's what caused him, PR Rog, to react and do that headbutt. So
now, okay, so there's that argument here. Is that PR Rog's fault as far as I'm concerned?
No, you can wear headphones.
Exactly, yeah. And not to mention, somebody saying something out loud is not the same as the person who's being told that inputting it.
Oh yeah, that is true too. But I mean, it's still kind of dirty if you did that on purpose, and maybe you should have a little bit more respect if you're like right here next to us, we can hear.
But the rules have stated you can have a coach.
Yeah, you can't do anything about.
How do you guys feel about coaching? I saw a lot of matches where somebody's losing, and you're like, hey, this guy, if he's up there on himself, he's not gonna advance. A coach comes up, whispers sweet nothings in his ear, all of a sudden he turns it around.
Before we start anything, let's just say that we have the best coach ever right next to us, right here.
Oh, is this guy right here? Has he helped you out in tournaments?
He came up to Arcade UFO. His name was Coach. Yep.
I love coaching. I think as long as you're not interfering with the other player, what we get out of coaching is better matches.
Yeah.
If the player improved as a result of coaching, that means we have something better to watch for the next thing, and that player is going to get better, and then the next player is going to have to get better to respond to that. So I don't see why we would take away anything so normally harmless. Now, it is unfortunate that may have caused PR Balrog to respond, but I think what that means is that if you're the type of player who takes that kind of thing in mind, then you should wear headphones. Playing at arcades, I mean, I've gotten used to sometimes like looking at other people's buttons, hearing their buttons, and then as a response, people have started hitting fake buttons. I know Shin Chang is Alex Valle slam like 30 fake buttons every time they do anything. So, and I remember in KOF at Evo, The Korean players put a T-shirt in between both sides so the other person couldn't look at their
The
buttons.
customized desk.
Yeah, I feel like, when they didn't let you cheat in elementary school, you have to put up the... Exactly. And, I mean, so you're saying that there's techniques that develop to avoid people reading your...
Yeah, so
your
don't listen to the other guy. Put in some headphones and let coaching bring our game to a higher level. Like, please.
I mean, shit, we're in a ring. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
To me, it's like a boxing match. You go to your ring, and your coach tells you what you're doing wrong, what you need to start doing. It seems
Where
like
would
it's
Ali
going
be
hand in
without
hand.
Don King?
Exactly.
And where would Magneto 1080p be without Donka?
You hear
President
that?
needs a cabinet too.
Calling you out, Jared. Well, we got to talk about Kazunoko again. I'm going to pull up this image here.
I love Kazunoko because he plays a good character.
Let's see. What did you guys think? I mean, we had talked a couple of times about how again, I'm going to bring it up again. It's at South by Southwest. Of course, the picture says it all, right? But he is definitely taking names, man.
As an anime player, I like seeing these multi-game players do well because I think it shows off what you get from doing it. I mean, he won Guilty Gear and Street Fighter, which were both very competitive events, and he won Guilty Gear in an extremely dominant fashion, and he won Street Fighter in a pretty dominant fashion too. So
I'll admit that I'm not the Guilty Gear expert, but watching it, I was able to appreciate. And you guys told me, he baited the burst, and then he basically did a command grab. Is that what that kind of looks like?
he did
like
an
an
instant
ultra?
kill, which is kind of like a troll finisher. It's like there's really no comparison in Street Fighter 4, but it's kind of if you just raw ultra on someone to beat like a jab. That's basically what he did, and yeah, it caused quite the scene. People were claiming Elvin Shadow was crying.
Yeah. It looked like someone was cutting onions in that ring, maybe. It's getting a little dusty.
No, but yeah, you can tell that his multi-game prowess, and a lot of the Japanese players do. Daigo used to play Guilty Gear.
Marvel.
All the Japanese players play a bunch of games for the most part, and I think it's time for America to start doing that to some extent, just for the skills you learn from it.
Speaking of America, right? Last week we were saying that America was third if you consider the regions Asia, Europe, and then America. There was all kinds of Twitter talk. Even Kazunoko himself came out and said these guys are leveled up. How do you guys feel about the current standings if you want to break it up into regions in that way?
America's definitely proven themselves here at CEO. I mean, a lot of Japanese came out. Who is it? Daigo lost to 801 Strider?
Yeah, he lost to 801 Strider in Shanghai.
Yeah, in Shanghai. We had Tampa Bison, a.k.a. now Booker, putting Shanghai into losers. I mean, there were so many Japanese people.
Momochi lost to Hugo from Detroit.
Oh, yeah.
Alucard.
Yeah, so...
I think almost every Japanese player got eliminated in part by Americans, if not totally. So that was cool.
You had mentioned, Danka, that... these players, let's talk about these Japanese players or these Asian players. They are playing in different regions, different monitors, different setups. I'll go past the idea that I've always wanted to be a situation where I cause an entire room to start chanting USA. But you were telling me, Danka, that I think it was Daigo himself that was saying at Southeast Asia Majors the monitors were laggy. How do you feel about but at the end of the day, you're a professional gamer and you have to deal with these different conditions. How do you feel about that?
So Southeast Asia Major is held in, I don't want to say lower standards, but it's definitely held in a less developed fighting game area.
Fair enough.
And so what ended up happening was that PS3s were used for Street Fighter 4 and non-tournament standard monitors were used as well, which caused a lot of people to have issues hitting their links. In an interview with Daigo and a couple of the other guys on Topanga, Tokido said playing Akuma was impossible under those conditions, which is part of why he picked Hugo. Daigo claimed he could never do a combo on those, etc. So not to take away from the win there from Mago, but it definitely shed some light on a couple of the things that happened and perhaps why maybe some of the local players did better than expected. But the results were still generally consistent. You have to wonder how much of it was placebo, but there is definitely a measurable difference in PS3 versus Xbox, and I don't think that should be something that happens. So I think at a Capcom Pro Tour event, that should not be overlooked.
This is the thing, right? I mean, that was a premier event, and you would think...
should be a standard.
Exactly. It's no, it needs to be on these monitors. Is that fair? Are we at a point in the community where you can mandate that, and, okay, well, let me just go pick up all those monitors you say I need for this tournament?
Whether it's fair or not, I think it has to happen. I mean, you're going to put that much money up for grabs, then you should be putting that much time into making sure it runs as fairly as possible.
All right. Have you guys had enough talking about Street Fighter yet? Because there was a lot of Tanyas in top 8 in Mortal Kombat.
Oh, God.
CEO, I mean, Mortal Kombat's still a young game.
Uh-huh.
A young game that's changing rapidly, constantly. Tanya was dropped, and you can make the argument people were losing to Tanya because she's brand new, you don't know the matchup, but there was more to it. They even nerfed her. Still all over top 8. What can you guys tell me about Mortal Kombat top 8 at CEO?
Okay, first, patching the game 3 days before the tournament, I think that's just really unfair for
Went
everyone.
as badly as we said it would.
Yeah, like, I mean, we had a Devora player who couldn't even do the run bug cancel combos because the timing had changed. Like, little things like that matter because you spend weeks or months in advance practicing these combos, and all of a sudden, NRS is just like, we're just going to change it around because I don't know where they're getting the results from or their data, but just like it's unfair. We don't want this.
Is Ed Boon going to pay for my flight when he nursed my character 3 days before?
Yeah, I mean, he was there in attendance too.
It's unfair.
Well, I mean, I don't think it was Ed Boon himself that made the changes,
yeah,
but
right.
you know, it is his game, and he is, the figurehead there.
Blame everything on the figurehead.
All right, Ed Boon, come on, man. How are you going to do that to these players? But the idea being, again, if you're a professional, then everybody else had to deal with that patch, right? So it's easy for me to say, of course, but in practice it's more difficult. Do you think it's fair to say, hey, everybody's dealing with the same thing, put up or shut up?
No.
That is definitely not fair because some...
Discuss, go ahead.
Some characters are affected more than others, right? Well, you see Devora is just completely like almost a new character. Tanya is pretty new as well. I mean, you're trying to learn the character and then all of a sudden you change her. Like, I mean, it's like make up your mind. Like, what are we learning here? Like, what is this new stuff? It's like...
But at the end of the day, so who are those patches for? Why are those characters being changed?
They're for the people at this tournament, right?
But what I'm saying is like, so if you're doing it for the professional player or the tournament player, why are you doing it during the tournament season?
No one knows.
Yeah.
The thing is, I feel like you can only get your data results from online play, and that's what I feel like that's what they're changing it off of. They're just like, all right, we have kind of laggy online, so let's see what our statistics are and change it from there. But I mean, yeah,
I was surprised.
I have no idea.
How many people were using Tanya and like, oh, I'm losing. Let me switch to Tanya. Even Sonic Fox used Tanya, dropped her in black for a second.
Well,
what you got, Donka? I see it percolating in your head. Let's hear it.
Just going further with that. I mean, as you said, like the patches are generally for the veteran players, for the people who are going to tournaments. I understand. Like, I think MK has patched the game too much, but as I said, I thought their first patch was good. I think patches somewhat periodically in fighting games can be a good thing. They vary up characters that are played. They do this. However, and I do think, at that point you have to choose the right character. But there has to be some sort of leeway on before a tournament what's going to happen. And at the very least, I think these companies should put non-hackish ways of allowing you to play previous versions of the game in situations like this.
I see.
Because if it had been an easy fix where they were like, oh, you can go back one version for CEO, I think they would have done it. But instead you have to like delete the cache on the Xbox and like make sure you download the right patch. So if you're going to add stuff like this, you have to make it easy to revert, and frankly, you just have to give people time. I know Evo like has this rule where like they're not allowing some of the new Smash characters because they think it's too soon, which is good. However, they've said for Mortal Kombat they're going to use any patch that's released simply because it's too hard not to do that.
Not to do that. You know, you were talking about online, and you think that's where the info that they're getting, all the data that they're putting.
I follow them pretty heavily on Twitter and stuff, and I actually like look up these patches to the website. I'm like, where do they get the info from? So I check Tester Might, and I mean that's the only community conclusion that we can come to.
Well, that brings me to a point, which is the IRL tournaments, right, showing up at CEO, and the ESL tournaments that they're doing, which are online. What are your thoughts on that? I don't think the internet is there so that you can run those consistently. And talk to me. What do you think?
I think they're dead.
You think they're dead?
They're dead.
It's really upsetting to me too because when I heard they were doing that, I was like, this is it. Like MK was like the 5th or 6th most popular game on Twitch. They had these online tournaments set up for real money. They had the pre-release like MK tournament that Sonic Fox won. I was like, they're really pushing this game.
Yeah.
They're releasing small good patches, and unfortunately, the online just couldn't. And like having it be Xbox One only won, so that's over half the player base is not allowed to play because I believe the game was more popular on PS4.
Right.
The fact that the PC port didn't work.
That is a sore subject around here.
Let me just say, I bought that, and we got the title screen for a whole day and a half after the release. And that was like the saddest thing in my life. Like,
and the fact that just the online is so different.
You guys aren't saying, okay, so the online is different from the sitting next to your buddy on the couch or at the arcade experience. Yeah. But the game surely isn't dead.
The game isn't dead, but just the online tournaments are pretty much...
You don't think that they delivered?
No, unfortunately, just it wasn't enough, because the idea of being able to enter this open tournament from your home isn't that appealing when every match is different due to variable lag, and you're going to lose to someone who you know isn't necessarily better than you. So a lot of people just gave up. Even with money in their faces, they were just like, I can't do this.
I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head with money's in their faces. I think it was more than anything marketing, right? Like, hey, by the way, if you buy this game, you guys can compete in this tournament. As you guys have already demonstrated or illustrated, it didn't really play out the way it should. It's not done yet. We'll see. So anything else you guys want to say about Killer Instinct at CEO?
Well, Killer Instinct in Mortal Kombat. Killer Instinct shouts to our San Antonio player winning Mortal Kombat. I think it's cool that two brothers made top 2.
Yeah.
From Yomi.
Yeah.
It shows like what having a dedicated training partner can be. And they both played a bunch of characters, which shows that like small scenes by banding together, and I don't know if they live in a small scene. I don't know exactly where they live, but even with one other guy, it's useful sometimes to not just play your mains versus each other, to learn separate characters so you can learn these matchups. And you can tell they know a lot of matchups and a lot of characters.
Doug, we're going to close out the show with a Panda pick. And we had somebody ask me, why are you guys doing a Panda pick? And I'm going to tell you why. Panda X Gaming, if you guys know him, he's been a streamer for many tournaments, and he hosts the only 24-hour Street Fighter tournament or stream on Twitch on his channel. And he's been sending us clips. He's a friend of ours. So we're on Twitch. We need to support our community. Our community is supporting us, and that's why we're featuring him. Now, I asked him to send me a match that would be relevant, and he said, well, there's nothing necessarily new, but since I didn't want to end the show without talking about Jan and his unfortunate performance making it, I mean, he was a killer performance, but he only got to second place. I figured we would cheer him up by watching a year-old match.
Oh, boy.
Are you ready for this? This is from...
Oh
my God.
It's me!
So we're going to cheer up Jan while we talk Marvel by watching him destroy Donka 1 year ago today.
Oh, God. I don't even know what tournament this is.
So, Marvel.
That's cool.
Every time we talk, you guys say, Marvel's dead, Marvel's dead. I'm telling you, I still love seeing Hulk punch somebody in the face. I still think it's hype. Tell me what the current state, Mike, of the Marvel community is, and also, you know, talk a little bit about Jan.
So a lot of the criticism of the Marvel community was that it was becoming Marvel 2. While I don't think not in a good way, not in the way that people love, but in like the tier-centric manner. Mm-hmm. What a lot of people do like in fighting games, whether it should be the case or not, is a balanced roster of characters. Sure. They like to see different characters. And the game has gotten to the point where you have a lot of Zeros, a lot of Morgans, a lot of Magnetos, and pretty much every one of these with Dr. Doom on the team at the top. Justin Wong is considered an exception, so people don't really count him a lot of the time. And people were worried that the game had just stagnated. Mm-hmm. This weekend was cool. We got to see Sea Viper and Hulk in the grand finals, two definitely less played characters. Mm-hmm. But
Sea Viper with full schedule and Hulk with Jan?
Yeah, exactly. So that issue was kind of mitigated a little bit, but I think the other thing that's hurt the game is the lack of perhaps risk-reward. Part of the reason I don't enjoy playing the game anymore as much is due to the fact that low-risk moves mean a lot in Marvel 3. Zero's Buster from full screen is totally safe and leads into a kill combo that might lead into 2 mix-ups that take the match. Morgan's Fireball is not only safe, but plus and does a million chip on block and builds her meter to do more fireballs. Mm-hmm. So the game generally has kind of boiled to the point where people aren't really fighting each other so much as they are fighting the screen. Mm-hmm. And while that might be appealing for some, I think a lot of people have gotten a little bored of watching it. But people like Jan, you know, getting in with this team of big boys has kind of gotten people excited, I think, for EVO. And to see at the top players, Chris G, your Justins, your F-Champs, who have these bounties on them now, they're doing so well.
Yeah, that's cool.
To see them maybe get usurped by that dude playing Hager.
You know, talking about a guy like Jan, he's beloved by the
I had
community.
that match.
You had that match? Doesn't look like it, man. This is a 3-0 in case you're, if you want me to fast forward here for you.
Oh, God.
But, you know.
We probably split.
Yeah, I'm sure. Did you see that? You hear that? This is not condoned by the Daily Dot or the Loadout. But I want to talk a little bit about that match. We don't have the clip, but because I really want everybody to see you getting your ass beat. But you mentioned he lost in a poor fashion. Like it was hard to watch. Talk to me what happened, man. But couch it in that's Marvel, right?
Yeah, so he played full schedule, and I think what was the winners semifinals or something like that. Yeah, like the match before winners finals, and he absolutely obliterated him. He won 3-0 in a really dominating fashion, read everything he was going to do, and kind of made full schedule look silly. I mean, full schedule did not block the majority of that match. And then you saw him beat Chris G, which he has never done before. He's lost to Chris G in who knows how many tournaments. And then in grand finals, you saw him, and I don't want to take credit away from full schedule, who played great in that match. Mm-hmm. But Jan just did not play the same game he typically does. He'll be the first one to admit that. Mm-hmm. And despite being a seasoned veteran, and despite being a guy where nerves aren't a big deal, I think being about to win that first major and doing it for Texas has definitely not won a real major in this game yet, might have come down on him a little bit.
I think he threw it on purpose. He's saving it for Evo.
Oh, boy. That would be the biggest...
I don't think anyone would throw that belt, dude.
Yeah, I don't think so either. That belt's pretty cool.
I think that belt's more important than the money. People like that.
That's the coolest thing. I mean, we saw Kazunoko stand there with both of them. That's pretty cool. Well, we're wrapping up the show. If you enjoyed the show, please follow. And we'll be here every Wednesday at 5 with your two intrepid analysts talking fighting games. Thanks, gentlemen. Had a good time.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.